There is a bag sitting on the bottom shelf of your local health food store right now. It is often tucked away behind the chia seeds and the flax, packaged in modest, earth-toned bags that betray nothing of its explosive history. You might walk past it without a second glance. You might think it is just another expensive topping for smoothie enthusiasts or a niche product for vegans. But if you stripped away the modern packaging and looked at the genetic history inside that bag, you would not see a health food product. You would see a prisoner of war that has just been released after an 80-year sentence. You would see the biological engine that terrified the three largest industries in the history of the United States. This tiny seed contains a protein profile so digestible it is virtually identical to the protein in your own blood. It contains an omega fatty acid ratio so mathematically perfect that medical textbooks call it the golden ratio. It possesses an amino acid structure that your body uses to manufacture the antibodies that keep you alive. For 10,000 years, this was not a controversial plant. It was the canvas for the world's first paintings. It was the fiber for the ropes that sailed the first ships across the uncharted Atlantic. It was the very paper on which the drafts of the Declaration of Independence were written. And today, despite being fully legalized in 2018, it is still treated with suspicion by the FDA, blocked by major credit card processors, and shadowed by a stigma that was manufactured by billionaires to protect their profits. The archive opens in the founding days of America. When the early American settlers arrived on the continent, they did not just bring this seed with them, they were legally commanded to plant it. In 1619, the Virginia Assembly passed a specific law ordering every farmer to grow this crop. It was not a suggestion. It was a mandate for survival. It was considered so valuable that it was legal tender. You could pay your taxes with it. You could buy land with it. George Washington grew it on his estate at Mount Vernon, meticulously recording the sow rates in his diaries. Thomas Jefferson invented a specialized brake machine to process it more efficiently. For nearly 3 centuries, it was the standard of American agriculture. They expected it to remain the backbone of the economy forever. They expected it to fuel the Industrial Revolution. What they found instead was a sudden, violent, and calculated erasure. In the 1,930 seconds, American ingenuity produced a machine that should have changed the world. It was called the decorticator. This machine stripped the fiber from the stalk of the plant with unprecedented efficiency, suddenly making this crop cheaper to produce than timber paper and cheaper to process than cotton. In February 1938, Popular Mechanics magazine published an article with a headline that would become legendary. They declared it the new billion-dollar crop. They predicted it would revolutionize textiles, plastics, and fuel. They estimated it could produce 25,000 different products, from dynamite to cellophane. This was not a vague projection. This was a mathematical certainty based on industrial efficiency. And that certainty sent a shockwave of absolute terror through the boardrooms of the established order. The timber barons looked at their millions of acres of forests and saw them becoming worthless overnight. The cotton moguls saw their monopoly crumbling before a stronger, softer fiber. The chemical giants, who had just patented synthetic nylon and the sulfite process for pulping wood, saw a natural competitor that they could not patent and could not control. They realized that to save their empires, they had to kill the competition, but they could not ban a crop that was the foundation of the rural economy. So they did something more insidious. They executed a linguistic deception that changed the course of history. So what did the founding fathers know that we have forgotten? Let me tell you what is actually inside this seed. The nutritional profile is a biological anomaly that seems engineered for human survival. We are told constantly that we must eat meat to get complete protein. We are told that plant proteins are incomplete or inferior. This seed shatters that myth entirely. It contains all 20 amino acids, including the 9 essential ones your body cannot produce on its own. But the presence of protein is not the miracle. The miracle is the form it takes. Soy contains protein, but it is often blocked by complex enzyme inhibitors that make it difficult for your body to access. This seed relies on a protein called Edestin. Edestin is a globular protein that is biologically similar to the globulin found in human blood plasma. This is a profound biological key. It means your body does not have to fight to digest it. It does not cause the bloating or the gas associated with other legumes. Your system recognizes it immediately and uses it to repair DNA, build muscle tissue, and synthesize hormones. A single 3 tablespoon serving contains 10 grams of this highly digestible protein. That is more than a large egg. That is more than a cup of milk. But the quality of the fuel is where the real story lies. Now look at the fats. We have been trained for 50 years to fear fat, but your brain is 60% fat. It needs specific lipids to function, or it begins to degrade. The modern Western diet is drowning in omega-6 fatty acids from cheap vegetable oils like corn and soybean oil, leading to a state of chronic inflammation. We desperately need omega-3 seconds to balance this fire. Most people are told to take fish oil, which is often rancid, oxidized, and full of heavy metals from polluted oceans. This seed offers the perfect terrestrial solution. It naturally contains the ratio of 3 to 1 omega-6 to omega-3. This is the exact ratio recommended by the World Health Organization for optimal cardiovascular health. But it goes deeper. It contains Gamma-Linolenic Acid, or GLA. This is a rare fatty acid that is almost impossible to find in the modern diet. GLA acts as a powerful anti-inflammatory switch for your hormonal system. It is the building block for prostaglandins, the chemical messengers that control inflammation in the body. When you eat this seed, you are not just consuming calories. You are providing your body with the raw materials to turn off the fire of inflammation. But it gets stranger. The mineral content puts modern synthetic multivitamins to shame. A single serving provides nearly half of your daily magnesium requirement. Magnesium is the spark plug of the human body, involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions. Yet, 80% of the population is deficient in it. This deficiency leads to anxiety, muscle cramps, and insomnia. This seed fixes that. It provides 20% of your zinc, crucial for immune defense. It is loaded with iron, and unlike spinach, it does not contain high levels of oxalates that block mineral absorption. The ancient people did not have a word for brain fog. They did not have a widespread crisis of hormonal imbalance. They were eating the seeds of a plant that balanced their internal chemistry naturally. So, here is the question nobody wants to answer. If this food is a complete protein, if it heals inflammation, if it restores the soil, and if it grows like a weed without pesticides, why was it illegal for 80 years? Why did armed agents burn fields of it? Why did the government spend billions of dollars to eradicate it? The suppression was one of the most successful and destructive corporate conspiracies in history. It began with a meeting of 3 men who held the keys to the American economy: William Randolph Hearst, the newspaper mogul who owned millions of acres of timber forests; Lamothe DuPont, the head of the chemical company that had just invented nylon; and Harry Anslinger, the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Hearst used his empire of newspapers to run a yellow journalism campaign that would make modern clickbait look dignified. He did not talk about hemp, the industrial fiber and nutritious seed that every farmer knew. He began using a Mexican slang word that most Americans had never heard: marijuana. He splashed sensational headlines across the country, connecting this plant to violence, insanity, and moral decay. He told stories of jazz musicians going mad and teenagers killing their families. He terrified the public. He successfully conflated the psychoactive variety of the plant with the industrial and nutritional variety, blurring the lines until nobody could tell the difference. Anslinger took this manufactured fear to Congress. In 1937, they held hearings for the Marijuana Tax Act. The American Medical Association sent a representative, Dr. William C. Woodward, to testify. He tried to stop the madness. He told Congress that there was no evidence that this plant was dangerous. He argued that the bill was written in secret and that the use of the word marijuana was a trick to entrap doctors and farmers who knew the plant as hemp. Congress ignored him. They passed the act. It did not explicitly ban hemp, but it placed such an exorbitant tax and heavy regulatory burden on farmers that it effectively killed the industry overnight. They classified it as a drug because they could not profit from it as a competitor. You cannot patent a plant that grows in any soil from the equator to the Arctic. You cannot sell expensive chemical fertilizers for a crop that naturally replenishes the earth and kills its own weeds. You cannot sell synthetic nylon stockings if a natural fiber is stronger, softer, and cheaper. You cannot sell wood pulp paper that destroys ancient forests if a yearly crop produces 4 times as much fiber per acre. You cannot maintain a monopoly on medicine if the people can grow their own remedy in the backyard. They did not ban it to save you from drugs. They banned it to save themselves from bankruptcy. For the next 80 years, the most useful plant in human history was erased from the American landscape. The billion-dollar crop became a felony. Police helicopters scoured the countryside looking for ditchweed, burning millions of dollars of taxpayer money to destroy a plant that could have fed the hungry and clothed the poor. The knowledge of how to grow it, how to process it, and how to eat it was scrubbed from the textbooks. Fast forward to 2018. The Farm Bill was signed. The federal prohibition on hemp was finally lifted. It was legal again, but the suppression did not end. It just changed shape. Today, the enemy is not a direct ban, but a regulatory gray zone. The FDA still maintains strict and confusing restrictions, refusing to classify it fully as a dietary supplement. Banks and payment processors often refuse to work with companies that sell it, fearing federal retribution. Advertising platforms ban images of the leaf. They have created a stigma so deep that even now, with the law on our side, people are afraid to talk about it. But here is what they could not erase: the seed itself, the knowledge itself. While the Americans were burning their fields and arresting their farmers, the rest of the world kept the secret alive. But knowledge does not die. In the remote villages of Bamayao in China, recognized as one of the world's few blue zones for longevity, the elders have been eating these seeds for 3,000 years. They call it ma-zi. They consume it in a soup twice a day. They have some of the lowest rates of heart disease and cancer in the world. They attribute their long lives not to medicine, but to the oil of this seed. In the mountains of Nepal, they crush the seeds into a paste called bhang for festivals, separating the nutrition from the ritual, feeding it to their children to build strong bones. In Eastern Europe, specifically in Poland and the Baltic states, grandmothers continued to bake it into bread and brew it into soups during the hard winters of the Soviet era. They knew it was the only thing that would keep their families alive when meat was scarce. In France, they never fully stopped growing it. They kept the genetic lines alive for industrial use, hiding the seeds in the coffers of agricultural institutes, breeding out the psychoactive elements to create a purely industrial superplant. They knew that a day would come when the world would need a plant that requires half the water of cotton. They knew we would need a food source that could survive a changing climate. Half the world never forgot. The other half was taught to fear the shape of a leaf. The other half was taught to confuse a superfood with a narcotic. That moment of confusion is over. The seed has returned to the shelves. We know it today as hemp. So, here is what you do. You walk into that grocery store and you go to the aisle they try to hide. You look for hemp hearts. These are the raw, shelled seeds of the plant. They look like small, creamy nuggets. They taste like a cross between a pine nut and a sunflower seed, with a mild, nutty profile that disappears into whatever you cook. You do not need to cook them. You do not need to soak them. You simply open the bag and pour. Sprinkle 3 tablespoons on your morning oats. Toss them into your salad for a protein boost that replaces chicken. Blend them into your smoothie to make it creamy without dairy. But there is a safety note you must understand. You will not get high. These seeds contain 0 psychoactive ingredients. They have been tested, certified, and cleared. You could eat a bucket of them, and the only thing that would happen is you would have the best digestion of your life. Do not let the stigma of the leaf stop you from the power of the seed. When you buy this bag, you are doing more than feeding your body. You are voting with your wallet. You are telling the industry that you know the difference between a drug and a nutrient. You are reclaiming the name that Hearst and Anslinger tried to destroy. You are supporting the farmers who are brave enough to plant a crop that their grandfathers were arrested for growing. You are taking a direct stand against the chemical monopolies that want you eating corn syrup and soy. Every person who eats hemp seeds is one more crack in the wall of the monopoly. Every time you choose this plant protein over processed fillers, you are opting out of the system that wants you sick and dependent. You are opting into the biology that Washington and Jefferson knew would build a nation. The plant they outlawed is legal. The seed they terrified you with is a superfood. The crop they taught you was dangerous is the key to a sustainable future. The founding fathers knew. The Bama Yao elders knew. The chemical giants definitely knew. And now you know, hemp is still here, still growing faster than the trees they cut down. Still holding the perfect protein structure, still waiting for you to look past the propaganda and see the potential. It can feed you. If this opened something for you, subscribe. Every share helps preserve the knowledge they spent 80 years trying to lock away. The next vault opens soon.